Good morning everyone. Today we are going to talk about First Kings chapter 15 and 16. Um, I hopefully it won't be too long because we've entered into the era of the kings of Israel and Judah. And you're just like, oh, OMG, how are we going from an amazing David to people that are killing themselves? And it just feels like a Machiavellian era. I guess the Machiavellians learned this from the kings of Israel and Judah. Someone was king for 7 days. He killed somebody, as in did what they call it. How do I say it? They were not following any other again. Nobody was asking God. Nobody was doing anything. It was the battle, survival of the fittest. But when you are feeling like you're a fit person and you can scheme, you now meet people that can scheme better than you. And somehow, it just went, and we got to Omri, who was the father of Ahab. They do as they like for this era. And for me, once you start deviating from the course, once God is no longer the one in charge, there will be anarchy. Everybody will kill everybody. And that's how we went. We went from Jericho, entered, I think it was Baasha. And one thing that struck me for Baasha was that God punished him for his own sins. Then he still punished him for killing Jeroboam, although he was the one that moved Baasha to kill Jeroboam. And I'm like, don't be putting mouth in God's matter when God has matter with somebody, because he will still collect, particularly if your own ways are not clean. And that's why sometimes when someone is telling me, why are you not talking about something, I say, because my obedience is not yet complete. Because I want my obedience to be complete, so that when I'm punishing disobedience, I will not collect in the middle of punishing disobedience. Because we are so focused on what others are doing. Oh, this is a bad person. And you see, they saw the reason why God was killing all the other kings. They will take over and then they will go and do worse. It shocked me. But that's the way we are. You complained about that your boss. My boss is terrible. He's a micromanager. He's a something. You now became boss. You became worse. People cannot drink water and drop cup because you are boss. So for me, that was one of the striking things about 1 Kings 15 and 16. And I guess it's also worthy of note to talk about Asa. Asa came from an idolatrous background. About Asa, and he started out well. And sometimes when we look at it, sometimes if you are not careful, if you don't purge your heart totally of all that all that you're coming from, if you don't deal with your foundations, they still have a way of coming back to get you. Anyway, so when he started off, Asa was like 5 generations from David. He was the grandson of Absalom's granddaughter. Absalom was 1 generation from David. His child, whether son or daughter, that gave birth to Maacah was the 2nd generation. Maacah, the grandmother, was the 3rd generation. Then Asa's father, I forgot it, I think it was Abijah or something, was the 4th. And then there was Asa 5th. So they were he was 5 generations away from David. And unfortunately, the people that should have kept the legacy of David, they went anyhow. I don't know. Sometimes I think we need to talk a lot about it. What's your 5 generations from you now? Are they still going to be serving the Lord? Will they still be serving the Lord? Because between David and Asa, everyone else in between did not serve the Lord. Let's start with Absalom. Absalom served himself. We don't know what Absalom passed on to his child, son or daughter. I think they said he didn't have any sons. So it probably was a daughter. And only God knows what the daughter passed on to Maacah. And then we know that Maacah was an idolater, because eventually Absalom had to Asa had to confront her, because I don't know. I think it's one of those things that saddens me about David's dynasty, because we could blame all of his kids, but it just felt like he he was so passionate about the things of the Lord. He carried it on his head, but he did not seem to transmit it to the ones that were in between, that were directly parented by him. And I don't know. I honestly don't know how Asa came to know the way of the Lord, because he wasn't set up to know the way of the Lord. And that's one of the things that also makes me know that even if your parents in your lineage or your lineage did not know the Lord, there's still hope for every one of us, no matter where we're coming from. Some of us, our lineage, our history is littered with terrible things that have been done. Some of us, our grandparents have buried people in their pursuit of wealth. Some of them have backstabbed. They've done terrible things. But Asa shows us that God can still be found even in those lineages, because all of us like to think of that we have a godly heritage, but not everybody has. But Asa is proof that even without a godly heritage, you can still find God. The only thing, in my opinion, that Asa did not do well was to let God excavate and deal with the things that were inside him that he was not aware of, that would still come back to hurt him. I don't know if this is a snake today. Some of us, the snakes in us, they have hidden very well, because they are coming from their foundational things. So they are inside the crevices. But the enemy that put them in, he knows when exactly what to press, so that we can come. We are going to talk more about Asa when we get to the book of Chronicles. I don't know if it's First Chronicles or Second Chronicles. That's when we will really understand how his end ended up, that he ended up diseased in his feet. Because in First Kings, we are told that he followed God completely. But how come? After God saved him, when he had another threat, he went to call another king. So it's in I think it's First Chronicles, that we will hear the full gist. That he did not follow God wholeheartedly. So he still had options, and that's for those of us that have options. Those of us that have plans A to Z, and if God does not work, we will check somewhere else. Just like Balaam. Balaam was a double agent. When God is around, he will let God use him. But when God is not around, he will do sorcery. That's actually what happened to Asa. He trusted God initially. God came through for him. And the next time he had an issue, he went to a human. And God did not say anything. But eventually, when we get to First Chronicles, I think it's First Chronicles, or Second, I don't know, we will gist more about Asa. But he was even the one that had small hope. Then after him, bad king after bad king, until we got to Ahab. Ahab won now plenty. I think I talked already about Baasha. Baasha killed Jeroboam, but he did not change. Continued the terrible things and increased it. He raised the temple. We now reach Ahab. Hi. On top of the sins of Jeroboam and all the other people, Ahab now went to go and marry Jezebel. He now increased the temple. He raised it. Hi, Father. Please, may I be the one that will stem the tide of evil in my generation? May I not be the one that will increase the temple? Please, let's hear I would like to hear from you. What are your thoughts? What do you agree with? What do you think I missed? What do we need to hear? Have a blessed day.